What's going on, guys? How you doing? Ryan here, and in today's video, what I want to do is I'm going to show you how to overcome objections for your coaching business on your sales calls. Okay, now obviously there's a bunch of different objections that you can face. I don't have time to cover every single objection. Okay, however, you're more or less going to use this same framework to overcome all of the objections. Okay, all that's going to change is kind of like what happens at the end, because sometimes you might go for the close, sometimes you might set up a follow-up, and so on and so forth. Okay, however, the reason I wanted to shoot this video for you guys is because obviously so many of you guys feel uncomfortable on sales calls, or you don't know how to sell, or the biggest thing that I see people slipping up on is like they know how to sell if the prospect is just a lay down sale and just buy straight away, but as soon as they're hit with an objection, for example, I can't afford it, they just crumble and they don't know what to do. All right, and trust me, if this is you, you are losing out on so much money, so many sales, and ultimately helping more people. Okay, because out of all the sales that you ever make, a massive chunk of them are going to be sales from people who hit you with objections. All right, trust me, an objection is not a no. An objection is just the prospect doesn't have something that they need in order to make a decision to work with you. All right, so if it's a no, usually people will just say no. Okay, or they might try and hit you with an objection, but it's actually a no, and this is what we call a smoke screen. All right, but I'm going to get into that in just a sec. Grab a notepad and pen if you have one. All right, because I'm actually going to show you how to overcome this word for word. Okay, so make sure you grab a notepad and pen. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube, subscribe. What are you doing? If you're not subscribed, go down and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell next to it, because I'm putting out daily videos. So if you want to scale a coaching business to 10, 20, 30 grand a month, all right, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Videos coming out every single day. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this. Now, when it comes to objection handling, okay, like I said, not every single objection is a no. Okay, a lot of the time it isn't a no, actually, it's a maybe. So out of all of the calls you ever take, right, out of all of the sales conversations you ever have, I know that's a terrible, I've just seen on the screen, that's a terrible circle, but you get my point. Here's what's going to happen, right? So you're going to have like maybe 5% of these people who are just going to say yes. You're going to pitch to them, you're going to tell them the price, they're going to say, let's do it. This is what I call a lay down sale, right? Like there's no fight. It's just, yes, I'm in. Okay. We all love these. We all love these, but they don't happen all of the time. Okay. It's probably 5 to 10%. Funnily enough, I am a lay down sale, right? Like if I book a call with someone and there's something I potentially think I want to buy, okay. If I get on that call, have the conversation with that person, and I think, yeah, this sounds like what I need, I would just say yes and I'll just buy every single time. Like no objections, nothing like that, okay? So I am a lay down sale, but you get different types of people. Obviously not everyone is, okay? And then what you're gonna find here is you might have another 5 to 10%, okay? And these are the no's, right? So these are the yeses, these are the no's, these are the ones who are just like, this just isn't right for me, thanks for your time. And no means no. If someone just says, no, this isn't right for me, sometimes you need to let those people go, right? Like, it's very difficult to turn a no into a yes. But here's what's going to happen is you have this remaining 90%, and these people are the maybes, okay? The maybes. Now, some people who are maybes, you can turn into yeses. Some people who are maybes will leave and not buy from you, okay? That's the difference between a lot of people who succeed and people who don't, right? What makes you a good salesperson is the ability to turn a maybe into a yes, okay? Not the ability to turn a no into a yes. You're not going to turn a no into a yes, okay? But you're going to have people who either it's a genuine maybe or they're going to say maybe and you'll never hear from them ever again, all right? So you have to have the ability to turn a maybe into a yes. Now, all of these maybes, when you're on the call, they're not actually going to say maybe. what they're going to do is they're going to hit you with a good old objection. All right. Now, what objections have we got? Right, we got, I can't afford it. I need to speak to my partner. Let me think about it. I'm not sure now is the right time. Blah, 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 right? There's tons of objections. And, you know, if you've been doing this any length of time, you've faced them all, right? But what I want to do in this video is I want to explain to you how to overcome objections. And I'm going to show you word for word how to overcome the I can't afford it objection, all right? I'm not going to show you word for word how to overcome every single objection. Inside our mentorship program, okay, the Predictable Clients Mastermind, we do obviously show people word for word how to overcome every single objection. If you want to learn more about that, just schedule a call in the description and we can have a chat, right? However, if I was to teach you that in this particular video, it might go on for 2 or 3 hours, which I can't do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the process to overcome objections, and then I'm going to show you word for word how to overcome the I can't afford it objection. Because that's the big one. That's the one that you're going to face most is I can't afford it, especially if you're selling high ticket, right? So the first thing that you want to do, let's say you're on a sales call with a prospect. You've gone through your whole process. You've explained your program. You've pitched them and you've said it's $5,000. Okay. And the prospect at that point, they go, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. Okay. The first thing that you have to do, right? Because let me just backtrack and I'm going to explain something. Okay. When it comes to a sales conversation, okay, there are 2 parts to the conversation. So if we just break this into 2 halves, all right, you've got the first half here, which is basically, I'm going to call it like the first half of the convo, okay? In fact, no. Yeah, you've got the first half of the conversation, and then this is the point where you ask the prospect to buy, okay? And then you have everything after that, which is going to be overcoming objections, all right? Now, a lot of people, they don't understand this. They think that a sales call is just from when you start the conversation through to when you ask the prospect to buy. And then if the prospect says, I can't afford it, that's the end of the conversation. No, that's the first half of the conversation. Okay, this is what really matters. This is where the money is made. All right, it's knowing how to overcome objections. So I just want to clarify that to you guys, right? Like, you should expect to have the conversation with the prospect, tell them how much it costs, and expect objections, right? Don't be disheartened. If they say no, then it might be a no, all right? But if they say, like, I need to think about it, that's fine. That's not a no. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I just want to clarify that. However, let's get into the objection handling process. So the first thing that you want to do is what's called, you want to isolate the objection. Okay, now what do I mean by isolate the objection? Well, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the objection that they've given you is the actual objection. It's the actual thing that is preventing them from making a decision, okay? And the reason you want to do this is because a lot of the time people will hit you with an objection, but what it is actually is a smoke screen, okay? So a smoke screen is like when the prospect says one thing and they mean another. And trust me, people do that a lot, right? People tend to be polite. People tend to want to avoid confrontation, all right? So a lot of the time what you might get is someone says, I can't afford it, okay? When it's not actually an affordability problem at all, right? It's that maybe they don't think it's the right time right now, or maybe they don't think that your product can help. Or another example might be you'll have somebody say, let me think about it. Yeah, they'll say, let me think about it and get back to you. When in actual fact, they just don't know if your product can help them. And what is the benefit of them going away and thinking about it, right? They're not going to go away and think about anything. they're right now they're thinking, I don't really think this can help me. And they're just going to say, let me think about it, because they want to be polite. They're going to get off the call and they are going to carry on with their life, and they're never going to think about you again. All right. So the time to isolate and overcome objections is there on the call. That's when they have you right in front of them as a source of information so that you can figure out if you can actually help. So, isolating the objection. Now, how do we do this? Okay. The prospect says, can't afford it. Now, what you want to do here, okay, is you always want to agree. You always want to agree with the prospect. So you'll hear people sometimes, and they'll say, like, you know, when the prospect says, I can't afford it, or I can't afford to do it, you say you can't afford not to do it, right? No, that's bullshit, guys. Like, trust me, if I was ever on a call with someone and I said I can't afford it, and they're like, you can't afford not to do it, I'd just be like, fuck off, you absolute moron. You know, like, that's the sleaziest like sales line ever, right? It's like, if I don't have the money, don't tell me I can't afford to not do it. Like, shut up, you idiot, right? So what you want to do is you want to agree, okay? You just want to say, yeah, listen, I totally get it, right? $5,000, it's not peanuts, you know, it's a fair chunk. But then what you want to do is you want to ask, in fact, you want to say, money aside, okay? And I'm going to explain what to say right now, okay? Prospect says they can't afford it. You say, yeah, listen, I totally get it. $5,000's a big chunk of change, right? But let me just ask you a quick question. Like, money aside, how do you feel about the process specifically? Okay? Money aside, how do you feel about everything that we've spoken about specifically? Do you feel that ultimately this is what's going to get you to 20 grand a month? Okay? Now, the reason that you want to do this, all right, is there's two reasons. When you're on a sales call, all the way up until you pitch, okay, the prospect says, I can't afford it. All the way up until that point, there's a strong sense of rapport between the two of you, right? Like, you're having a great conversation, you know, you're on the same side, like, you're trying to help them, they're trying to get help from you, and there's this kind of like, I can't think of the word for it, right? But it's almost like you're both playing along with each other, right? But then when it gets to the point where you say the price and the prospect says, I can't afford it, now what that does is that creates tension. So it almost goes from, not in an aggressive way, but it goes from two people kind of playing on the same team to suddenly two people who are trying to get a different outcome. Yeah? And there's this kind of underlying tension there. It goes from like positive to negative. Not in like a noticeable way, but just the dynamic of the conversation, all right? And when the prospect says, I can't afford it, what they've done is they've gone from a yes mindset into a no mindset. So all the way through the call, they've been in the mindset of like, I want to do this. I want help from this person. I'm interested in this, right? And then when they say, I can't afford it, now they're in that mindset of, I'm not going to do this. So what you want to do is you just want to get them back into a yes mindset. So you say, look, let me ask you a question. Money aside, you know, how do you feel about the process specifically? Like, do you feel like this is ultimately what's going to get you to 20 grand a month? And you want them to say, yeah, definitely, right? So you're looking for conviction. You're looking for conviction, right? A lot of the time they'll be like, yeah, 100%, like this is exactly what I need. Okay? If that's what you get, chances are it's like a legitimate objection, okay? Now, if you say, listen, money aside, do you feel like this is ultimately what's going to get you to 20 grand a month? And they're like, yeah, you know, it could. There's uncertainty there, okay? Money is not the objection, okay? If you ask them, do they like the process, and they're, if it's any less than like a 9 out of 10, conviction. Money is not the objection. It is a smokescreen. Do you guys understand this? Okay. And then you need to overcome that as well. All right. So when you say money aside, how do you feel about the process? Do you feel like this is ultimately what can get you to 20 grand a month? See how many times I've said this, guys, right? Like this is word for word stuff, yeah? These are called word tracks. When you know these word tracks, it's amazing how you can have so many conversations and get the same objections and just close the sale every time. Okay, you need to learn this stuff. And when you say that and they're like, yeah, this is 100% what I need. Now what you want to do is you want to do what is called a tie down, all right? And this is essentially where you're going to get them to commit without committing. So what you want to do is you want to get them to kind of commit verbally. And once they commit verbally, then you can actually handle the objection because they can't say no because they've already told you if this objection didn't exist, I'd be in. So then when you eliminate the objection, they have to buy, right? So let me give you an example of this. They're like, yeah, this is definitely what I need. Okay, they show conviction. Then you just want to say, okay, got it. So, I mean, just so I'm clear, like just so we're on the same page, like if money wasn't an issue and if you could afford this, would it be a case of like, yes, Ryan, I'm in right now, let's do it. Okay. And then what you want to hear again is conviction. Yeah. You want them to say, oh yeah, like if I could join right now, I'd join right now. Okay. So then once they say that, okay, you can go, okay, good. So, I mean, you know, you feel good about the process. You feel like this is ultimately what's going to get you to 20 grand a month. Obviously, it's just the money thing. So, like, are you happy to just have like an open and honest conversation about funds and we can just see if we can do something that works for you? And they're going to say yes. You're never going to have someone say no to that, right? Like, I've taken like over 1,000 sales calls over the past, 6 years, okay? I've never had someone say no to that question. When you just say, look, do you want to just have a chat about funds? And we can see if we can make something work for you. They're going to say yes, okay? And then you just want to be super direct and just say, got it. So, I mean, how much cash do you have at the moment, like realistically, that you could put into this? And you want to get a number from them, right? Don't let them, I've got like a little bit on a credit card. Like, no. Like, how much? Don't push them like that, right? But you just want to say, okay, that makes sense. I mean, like how much specifically? Like if you were to give me a figure that you could actually put into this right now, like what would that figure be? Okay, and you want to get a number. Now, this is where we can overcome the objection because let's just say they say, and I don't know why I've put number 1 here. Okay, because really these are the steps. It should be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So once they give you a figure, let's say you're selling a 5 grand program, right? You say, do you want to chat about funds and stuff? They say yes, and you say, okay, realistically, like how much cash do you have at the moment that you could put into this without, being unable to pay your rent and stuff like that? And they might go, I've got like probably 2 grand cash that I could put into it. Or they might say, I've got like maybe like 2 grand, maybe 2,500, on my credit card that I could use. Yeah. Once they do that, you can just figure out in your mind what's the best way to get the person in. Okay. So if it is a can't afford it objection, then your goal is it's not going to be to like rinse them of all the money they have. Right. Like if someone's like, I can't afford it and your program's 5 grand, and they literally have $5,000 to their name, like don't try and take the person's last $5,000, right? But if they're like, I've probably got, let's just say $2,500 on a credit card, what you could say is you could go, okay, got it. Well, listen, why don't we do this, right? Typically our clients take care of the investment up front. So it's a $5,000 program. Usually people just pay the $5,000 up front. But at the end of the day, what's most important to us is not to, it's not to charge you as much as possible. It's to actually get you moving towards your goals, right? So what if I was to say that instead of doing the 5,000 up front, we could break it into 3 payments of 1666. Would that work? And then what they're going to say is yes. Okay. And then boom, get them in on a payment plan. Okay. A lot of the time, if you give somebody like a split pay, you don't want to go for a really long one, right? Just because they say I can't afford it, don't go for like a year, like a 12 pay or whatever. Okay. But what you'll get a lot of the time is if this is like the genuine objection, what this usually means is the prospect does want to join. Like they want to do it. They just don't have 5 grand, for example. All right. If you just go, listen, you know, if we were to break this down, let's just say 3 payments of 1,666, you know, would that work? A lot of the time they're going to be like buzzing. They're going to be like, yeah, I can definitely do that. And then it's like, boom, closed, easy. Okay. If they tell you, right, I have $2,500 on a credit card that I could use, and you say, all right, let's do 3 monthly payments of 1,666, and they're like, let me think about it. Now you know for damn sure this is not the objection. If they tell you how much money they have, and you offer them to start for less than that, and they still don't say yes, money is not the problem. Okay, money is not the problem. So I don't want to go too deep because I could really go down a rabbit hole here, right? But that's when you have to challenge the prospect. So if you offer them that and they say, let me think about it, I would just say like something along the lines of, yeah, absolutely, you know, but before you kind of go and think about it and stuff like that, you know, do you mind if I just kind of like clarify something? Okay, and they'll say yes. Then what you can do is you can then try and get them back into that yes mindset again. You know, so I would say, like, obviously you said you like the process, but you know, it's just kind of the money thing. Like, what is it about the process specifically that you feel is actually going to help you? Okay. And then you're going to get the prospect to begin selling themselves. They're going to say, you know, well, the support's really good. And, you know, the way you help with like this thing, I think that would really help, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, okay, got it. That makes sense. I mean, apologies for being like a little bit direct here, right? But obviously, you know, you say that this is what you want to do. And you've just kind of told me that you've got 2,500 available on a credit card. But obviously you're not willing to get started for 1666. So yeah, I'm sure you can understand there's a slight disconnect there, right? Like, obviously money isn't the issue here because I'm doing my best to try and make this work economically. So like, what's the actual thing that's kind of stopping you from pulling the trigger here, right? So you have to ask that question. Don't let the prospect just bullshit you, and then you just lay down and say, okay, no worries, goodbye, right? Like, if they say can't afford it and you establish that's not the problem because you've made it affordable and they still say no, you have to challenge them. And when you say like, what's actually going on here? Like, just for my own sanity, like, fill me in. A lot of the time they'll say, well, you know, like I was in a program before that was kind of like similar to this and I got burned. And there you go, bingo. That's the fucking objection. It was never money. It was never money in the first place, right? That is how you establish what the objection is, right? There is no point overcoming the money objection if that's not the objection. The objection is they've tried something else similar to this and they didn't like it, right? That's the objection that you have to overcome. So then you can go down that path, right? Okay, I understand, you know, like the program that you were in, like what was it about that program that you felt was missing? Then you can reassure them that you're going to give them those things and then make the close, okay? But guys, anyway, I don't really have a direction for this video. When it comes to overcoming objections, it's one of those things where it's like the first time you hear me go through this, you're probably like, what the fuck? Like, you know, it's kind of like there's a lot going on all at the same time. But when you understand how to kind of like actually just establish this flow and then get it kind of like ingrained in your mind, this is some of the most useful stuff you will ever learn when it comes to making sales for your coaching business, all right? So let me just quickly recap this, all right? and then I'll explain how you guys can get help from us should you want it, all right? So, first thing you want to do, prospect says, I can't afford it. First thing you have to do is isolate. So, the way in which you do this is you say, totally understand it, right? 5 grand's not pennies, you know, but let me just ask, money aside, how do you feel about everything that we've just spoken about? Do you feel like ultimately that is what's going to get you to 20 grand a month? And they're going to go, yeah, definitely, 100%, all right? You want to hear conviction. So then what you want to do is you want to say, okay, got it. So I mean, like, just so I'm, you know, understanding correctly, you feel good about the process. And if money wasn't an issue, would this be a case of like, yeah, Ryan, I'm in, let's do it. Let's get started. They're going to go, yeah, if I could join right now, I'd join right now. So now you've got two commitments from them. You've got, yes, I like the process. And yes, if I could get started right now, I'd get started right now. Then you just want to say, cool. So, you know, you feel good about the process. Ultimately, this is what you feel like you need. Are you happy to just have an open and honest conversation about funds, and we can see if we can do something that works for you? And they're going to say, yeah, no worries. Okay, cool. So, you know, how much cash on hand do you have right now, realistically, that you could put into this? And they say, you know, I've only got like probably $1 grand that I could comfortably put into this. Okay, $1 grand, no worries. Well, listen, we don't usually do this. It's not something that we typically do. However, instead of paying that $5,000 up front, you know, I want to make sure that we can help you, right? So what if I was to do this for you? If I was willing to break that $5,000 into 5 monthly payments of $1,000, okay, that'd allow you to get started today for just $1 grand. We can get you started, start getting results so that those remaining 4 payments are just an afterthought. Okay, how does that sound? And they're like, yeah, that sounds good, sweet. Sure, you in? Good to go? They're like, yeah, I'm good to go. Boom, send them the link. Close on the call. It's another topic. I'm not going to get into that right now. Close right there on the call. Boom, they're in. Done. Okay? So, guys, I need a drink because I've been blabbering for God knows how long. But if you want our help with this, okay, go to the link in the description, okay? We have a program called the Predictable Clients Mastermind. Links in the description, okay? It will take you to this page here where you can schedule a call with me personally. And we're going to help you with every single aspect of your coaching business, from the offer to growing your audience, your content, okay, your ads, your appointment setting, and your sales, all right? So obviously here I've kind of run through the isolation process. I've run through how to actually overcome the money objection and turn that into a sale. Inside our program, we show you word for word, just like this, how to overcome all of the objections. Okay, I need to speak to my partner, right? I'm not sure I have the time. How do I know this is right for me, right? We'll help you with all of that stuff, word for word, okay? So schedule a call. I'll jump on with you, figure out what your goals are, put together a plan, a step-by-step plan, all right? Then you can attack it, all right? So go and schedule that call now. It'll be super valuable, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care.